You were born beneath a ceiling of painted cherubs, their eyes forever watching, frozen in a fresco of eternal obedience. The air smells of jasmine oil and old stone, a palace perfumed to hide the rot beneath the gold. The midwives do not cheer, they bow. Because you are not just a girl, you are a symbol, a lineage, a vessel for history's most dangerous dream, perfection. Your first cradle is carved from ivory, swaddled in silks, stitched by the blind nuns of the Eastern Quarter, the ones who bleed into their thread as a form of prayer. You cannot see them. You never will. You are not allowed to. Your eyes open to candlelight, never sunlight. The palace windows are shuttered, the curtains drawn. They say it's to protect your skin. Your tutors speak in hushed tones. Your food arrives on trays lined with crushed petals. Everything is soft, velvet, silence. Controlled by the time you're 3, you're already posing for portraits. Instructed never to smile with teeth. A true princess must never reveal what's inside her mouth. At 5, you're taught how to walk so your ankles don't bend wrong. At 7, how to bleed without weeping. No one calls you by your name. You are only ever the bloom, the quartz, sacred flower, the living embodiment of the royal myth. Untouched by weather, untouched by time. But you are not a flower. You are a girl, and you are 20 now. A woman by age, but still trapped in the rituals of childhood. The same prayers, the same powdered face, the same perfumed cage. They do not let you leave the inner halls. You were told that your presence outside would cause the townspeople to go mad with devotion, that your scent could drive men to war, but you've begun to doubt the stories, because lately you've started to hear things through the walls, a crack in the plaster, a voice in the mirror, a name that sounds like your own, but twisted. Ancient Dot. You tried to write your thoughts down, but your ink is censored. The royal handlers collect your parchment before dawn, replacing it with fresh scripture you did not ask for. One evening, you ask your handmaiden, "Why was I never taught to read the old texts?" She freezes. Then, slowly, she begins to cry. Not because she pities you, but because she's afraid. Afraid you've noticed. It is then you begin to understand. This palace is not just a home, it is a shrine. And you, the girl with skin too pale to touch the sun, you are its offering. They say your bloodline is sacred, that centuries of careful pairing, of cousin, wedded to cousin, sister to king, have distilled something divine in your veins, something fragile, something cursed. You look in the mirror, you see your own face flawless, yes, but hollow, almost translucent, like a doll kept too long in the dark. And then, for just a moment, the mirror fogs over. You didn't breathe, so who did? You step back. The silence tightens like a corset, because in this palace of roses and ritual, nothing happens by accident. Not a footstep, not a shadow, not a breath, and you begin to wonder, ... What was buried to keep the palace clean? Whose voice have they stolen to keep yours untouched? And what will they do when a flower starts to bleed? You meet him in a hallway of mirrors. He's 12 minutes, older than you, but everyone says you were born breathing as one. A prince and a princess, bound by blood, silence, and symmetry. They call him the air. They call you the bloom. But behind closed doors, he calls you sister. And then later, something softer. Your childhoods unfold like overlapping verses of the same strange hymn. You eat from matching plates. You sleep in beds carved from the same tree. You are dressed in identical silks, the only distinction, his collar lined in gold. Yours in rose thread. You are not allowed to play with other children, because there are no other children. You are born into the end of a line, the last. Living branches of a bloodline bred too close to the root. One more misstep, ... and the whole dynasty could rot, so they hide you. And in hiding ... you find each other. He is delicate, like you. Not weak, just too beautiful for the world outside. These velvet walls, pale fingers, hollow cheeks, skin like porcelain left too long in the cold. The physicians whisper that his bones are too fine for war. The priests say it's the price of divinity. You say nothing, because when he touches your hand, your breath stills like a pond. In winter, at night, you play a game. You press your palms together and try to tell where your hand ends and his begins. He tells you he dreams of snow, of a world without halls, without titles, without mirrors. You tell him you can't imagine what dirt feels like. He laughs, a soft, haunted laugh, and then he kisses your wrist. Just once, not as a brother, but as something else. You don't tell anyone, but you begin to change. Your heart beats louder than the clock tower. Your hands shake when he enters the room. Your dreams are wet with guilt and fire. The palace notices. Servants stop looking you in the eye. The court musicians play hymns in minor keys. Even the food changes, more bitter roots, less honey. Like the palace itself is souring from the inside out. Then ... a priest arrives. He says the stars have shifted, that a shadow has entered the bloodline. He carries incense and ash and chants in a language even the king doesn't understand. He watches you. He watches him. He knows, and still, you sneak to him in silence. One night, in the abandoned garden behind the chapel, he places a cracked mirror in your lap. You look down, see both your faces side by side, and neither one blinking. He says, "We were made to be one." You want to say no. You want to say stop. But the words catch like thorns in your throat. Because the truth is, you love him. Not as a sister, not as a princess, but as the only person who sees you. Not as a relic, but as real, and that truth is a knife. Because in this kingdom, love is not allowed to bloom without permission, and yours was planted in poisoned soil. You discover it by accident, a stone archway behind the chapel, ... veiled in ivy, half swallowed by time. No guards, no prayers, just silence, thick, green, waiting. You slip inside, and the world changes. No gold, no marble, no mirrors, only ruin. A garden forgotten by the court, where the roses have overgrown their thorns, and the statues weep moss instead of water. The air is damp with secrets. Even the sunlight filters indifferently here, not golden, but sickly pale. A light that hides more than it reveals. You are 20 now, but this place feels older than the palace. Older than you. Older than Sin. Here, he waits for you. No titles, no tutors, just him, barefoot, with soil on his hands, holding a half-dead lily, like it's a relic. He smiles. You forget how to breathe. You meet him in this garden again, and again it becomes your sanctuary, but not a safe one. The path to the center is overgrown, lined with marble angels missing their faces. Some have their mouths broken open, wide, hollow, screaming without sound. You press your fingertips to his. It feels like touching your own reflection. One evening, he brings wine, stolen from the chapel cellar. You drink it beneath a dying fig tree. He tells you, Fig trees were sacred once, that they grew in the blood of martyrs. The wine tastes like smoke. His hand touches your cheek. Your skin burns like the soil has been salted. That night, he kisses you. It's not sweet. It's not gentle. It's ancient. Like you've done it before in another life and were punished for it. A crow watches from the ruined windowsill. Its cry sounds almost human. You don't tell anyone. You can't. But the garden begins to change. The jasmine blooms out of season. The roses turn to red. Some petals bleed when you touch them. You find a dead lamb one morning, throat-slit eyes, wide. A ritual offering that no one admits to leaving, and yet you return. You always return. Because this garden, this rot-laced Eden, is the only place you are allowed to feel here. You are not the bloom. Here, he is not the air. You are just two broken things, trying to belong to each other. But the garden is watching. The soil remembers. And what grows in darkness, ... never stays buried. You begin to hear bells at night, but no one else hears them. You dream of drowning in petals, of hands pulling you beneath the vines, of mouths whispering names that aren't yours. Your body begins to ache in ways no physician can explain. You bleed too often. You wake with bruises in the shape of hands, and still you return. Because the garden is no longer just a place. It's a part of you, a wound you keep open, a prayer you can't stop whispering. But deep inside, beneath the roots, something is shifting, something watching, something waiting. And soon, the garden will ask for a price. Because nothing in this kingdom grows without blood. You first see him at supper, a man in black, seated in silence at the end of the grand table. His robe smells like smoke and old iron. His nails are clean, but his eyes are not. They do not blink. Not once. You glance at your brother. He doesn't look away either. The priest was summoned in secret, called by the queen herself, when the court astrologers refused to enter the chapel. The omens had grown too loud. A miscarriage in the royal nursery. 3 dead birds on the king's windowsill. A blood moon that rose and refused to set. The people whispered of plague, of divine punishment. The queen whispered only one name, his. They call him Father Elian. But to the servants, he is the watcher. He does not preach. He studies. Every morning he traces salt circles in the chapel. Every evening he walks the halls with a candle, searching for doorways that should not exist. He eats little, sleeps less, and all the while he watches you. His eyes are not cruel, ... but they are hollow, like the candles in the crypt. Like something once filled with faith, and drained too fast. He begins to ask questions. To your tutors, to your handmaidens, to the royal guard. Not about your prayers, not about your piety, but about your brother. He asks where he sleeps, who he touches, what books he reads when the moon is full, and slowly the palace turns colder. Doors that once opened freely now groan with resistance. The garden gate is sealed with iron. Servants whisper behind their sleeves. Even the musicians begin playing in reverse, as if trying to undo something already done. You feel it. You feel him not just watching ... but listening to your thoughts. To your hunger one night, you dream of fire in the chapel, and wake to the smell of ash on your pillow. The next morning, he speaks to the king. You are not there, but you hear the servants speak of it. He unrolls a parchment, ancient ink faded, symbols scrawled in a dead tongue. A prophecy, they say. One that was sealed in a monastery wall 100 years ago. If the royal bloom meets its mirror, and blood joins with blood, the moon will die, the fields will rot, and the kingdom shall drown in ash. The king laughs. For a moment, then the queen begins to cry. The priest does not flinch, does not tremble, does not blink. Instead, he places a single feather on the king's table, black, curved, soaked in something dark. It was found in the princess's chamber, he says. It belongs to a crow that has no eyes. And then he adds, almost softly, your daughter's womb will never bear fruit, only famine. The court goes still. The candles shudder. Later, your brother finds you beneath the tapestry stairwell. His face is pale, his lips bloodless. He whispers, they know. You nod, you do not cry, because somewhere deep in your chest, you already knew this would happen. The kingdom was built on secrets, but yours was never going to stay buried. You wake to the sound of fabric tearing. Your garments, your silks, your veils, your pearl-threaded shawls are being stripped from your body by hands that do not speak your name. Your chamber has been emptied, your mirror removed. They do not tell you where you're going, only that it is for your healing. They say this word as if it means salvation, but you hear it for what it is. Correction, your brother is gone. Sent to war, they say, he volunteered. You know he didn't. They handed him a sword too long for his reach, a weapon meant to break his back before the enemy ever could. He kissed you once before he left, in silence, on the underside of your wrist. It still burns there like a brand. Now, ... You are alone. They take you to the East Wing. A wing sealed since your great-grandmother's reign. A hallway lined with saints, whose faces have been scraped clean. At the end waits a door of solid black oak, scorched with symbols. You're forbidden to read it. It opens inward and swallows you. This is the room of rebirth. Stone walls, no windows, one basin, one rope. The smell, mildew, blood, and rosewater left too long in the dark. You do not scream. You know it would echo, and that would make it real. They tell you to kneel. You obey, then the rituals begin. They wash you in scalding water, muttering prayers between each pore. They bind your breasts in wax-dipped cloth. They press salt to your lips and call it cleansing. You ask how long you must stay. They do not answer. Instead, they bring the priest, not the one who blinked. He carries iron rods and a scroll of holy penance. He asks you questions you cannot answer, or won't. Do you regret your impure thoughts? Do you accept your body as a vessel of sin? Do you release the demon of mirrored love? You nod when you're told to. You say yes when silence earns you pain. Your cycle begins. They call it a curse made visible. They hang your stained linens at the windowless door, a red banner of humiliation meant to shame the sin from your womb. On the seventh day, they bring in a sculptor. He molds a wax figure of you, life-sized, pale, blank-eyed. Then they place it on a bed of nails and crown it with thorns. They force you to watch as they stab it, ... again and again. This is what becomes of the disobedient bloom, they whisper. You start to forget the scent of the garden, the sound of your brother's voice, the feel of your own name. You bite your tongue so hard it swells. You hope the pain will anchor you, but even pain begins to blur. Time folds in on itself. You bleed, you pray, you sleep without dreaming. One night, you see your reflection in the basin. Your eyes are unfamiliar, your face hollowed. You reach out, and the water pulls back. You begin to wonder if they are not cleansing you, but replacing you, because every ritual strips something away. Every chant steals a memory. And soon, the girl who once loved her brother may no longer exist. You are no longer given ink, not since the priest found your last confession burned beneath your mattress. A single line written over and over. He is me, I am him. So you begin using what they can't take. Your hair, your blood, your breath. You tear threads from the lining of your sleeping gown, unravel the seams, like soft bones cracking beneath a corset. Each night, while the shadows lengthen and the prayers grow cold, you stitch small letters into the inner hem of your clothes, words only your brother would recognize. Your own script, looping and fragile, woven into the fabric closest to your skin. I remember the fig tree. The angels have no mouths. They can't touch me where you kissed me. You prick your finger to seal each line. The thread darkens as it dries. These are not just messages. They are spells. They are you, bleeding into cloth, refusing to disappear. You fold the garments neatly after every use, hoping that someday, when he returns, he will find them. But something begins to change in the palace. At first it's small. Servants speak of nightmares, not their own, but shared ones. A boy with two faces, a girl sewn shut at the mouth, a hallway of doors that lead nowhere. One maid refuses to touch your sheets. She says the walls whispered your name while she turned down your bed. Another finds your basin filled with rose petals, ... that weren't there the night before. The priest returns, but this time he doesn't speak. He walks in circles around your chamber, counting each step beneath his breath. At the 12th lap, he stops, presses his hand to the stone, and listens. He listens, then he whispers, "It's waking." You are not sure what it is, but you know it's older than the church, older than the bloodline, older than your name. You begin to dream again, but they are not yours. You dream of women buried beneath glass, of thrones made of salt, of children with no eyes and too many mouths. Each morning, you wake soaked in sweat, throat raw from screaming. You don't remember making a sound. Your body begins to itch beneath the skin, like something is moving through your veins that isn't yours. One night, you stitch a letter into your shift and feel it move after you, so it's shut. It pulses, you tear the thread open. The word is gone, only blood remains. You are not frightened, you are furious, because you realize they are not trying to purify you, they are trying to erase you. But your body resists. You carve a final message into your thigh, just beneath the edge of your gown. I am still here. You do not stitch this one. You carve it with a shard of mirror you've hidden in your sleeve. And as the blood wells, you feel a warmth, ... like someone far away is listening. Like a name is being spoken behind the walls. Yours. She arrives without announcement, a hooded carriage at the gate. A single name scribbled in a trembling hand, Narelda. The guards say the ink stung their skin. The footman tasked with opening the carriage has not spoken since. When they bring her inside, no one dares question her. She smells like boiled milk and grave dirt, like something soft and spoiled that refuses to decay. But her eyes are the color of curdled sky, and they never blink. You recognize her instantly, though you shouldn't. You were barely walking when she disappeared. Merelda, your wet nurse, the one who vanished the day your brother fell ill, the one the priests swore drowned in the garden well, the one whose name they made you forget. But here she is, unaged, unchanged, uninvited. When you ask the steward why she's been allowed quarters near your chambers, he stares past you. "I don't remember," he mutters. "I don't remember letting her in. That night, the silver tarnishes by morning. The meat smells of rot. The holy books sweat from the spine, and when opened, they bleed. Your mirror fogs from the inside, and still no one dares send her away. She does not speak in the day. She moves like smoke and silence. But when the moon rises, she visits. You in the mirror first, just a glimpse. Her face behind your reflection. Her breath fogging the glass. Then her voice, not spoken, but threaded into your thoughts like wet velvet. Do you want to know the truth? You do, but you don't answer. Not yet. On the third night, she speaks again. Your brother wasn't the first. You tremble because you already knew. Because some part of you remembers the cries behind the walls. The names scratched into the nursery floorboards. The cradles that were burned without reason. She tells you of the first mouth. A child born centuries ago, with no eyes and a tongue that told only lies. A prince buried beneath the foundations of this very palace. She tells you of the pact, the royal tithe. Every generation owes the bloodline. One sacred child to the stone. Your brother was meant to be the last, but he loved you too much. He refused to disappear. You speak for the first. Time in days. Is he alive? Merelda does not answer with words. She lifts her hand and presses her palm to the mirror. The glass ripples. You see it for a moment. A boy standing in a field of thorns, mouth sewn shut with gold wire, eyes still glowing with grief. He is barefoot, bleeding. He is waiting. You reach toward him, but the glass cuts your palm. The pain brings you back. Merelda smiles. Choose, my love, she whispers. Will you bleed for their lie, or burn it? You wait until midnight. The halls breathe differently at night, slower, like the stone is sleeping. The servants won't follow you here, not past the northern wing, not past the rusted door with the seal carved in bone. The old nursery, locked since your brother vanished. The place your mother refused to look at. The place where the walls still hum lullabies, even when no one's near. You press your bleeding palm against the iron lock. It opens inside. The air tastes like ash and lavender. Toys still sit untouched. A rocking horse mid-motion. Blocks, arranged to spell glory. A mobile above the crib turns on its own. You step deeper. There's something beneath the wallpaper. The colors are wrong. The florals painted in a pattern that loops, not like vines, but like nooses. You pull. The paper comes off in wet strips. Beneath it, hundreds of tiny names, scratched in different hands, some still fresh, some dug so deep the plaster crumbles. Ilya, Mara, Thorn. One name repeats, again and again. Saint. The floor creaks. You kneel near the toy chest. Something calls you there. Not a voice, but a pull. You pry up the loose boards, and you see them. Bones. Hundreds. Some small as sparrows. Some still curled in the fetal pose. Some wrapped in lace blankets. Each one carved. Tiny ribs etched with Latin prayers. Spines engraved with honor, duty, blood. Skulls arranged like a garden, each marked with a date. Some from centuries ago, some from last winter. And then you see the cradle, tucked in the far corner, polished, untouched by dust. You shouldn't go near it, but you do. You look inside. A white pillow, a single rose, dried and blackened. and a plaque nailed to the base. Not your brother's name, your own. Carved in gold, you scream, but the sound doesn't leave the room. You try to flee, but the door has vanished. The walls stretch. The ceiling drips with milk. You stumble, gagging on the scent of rot and perfume. And then you hear it. A lullaby sung in a voice you know too well. Your mother through the wall, behind the bones, rocking something that isn't there. She's not ready, she hums. She's not broken enough yet. You claw at the wall. The nursery laughs. Then you hear Merelda's voice, through the mirror that has no reflection. Now, you know, now choose. You don't sleep, you don't eat. You only listen to the tick of the bloodline's clock. Every hour, the palace grows smaller. Not in size, in choice. You return to the Hall of Mirrors, not to ask, but to demand. Merelda, you whisper, I want the truth. No riddles. The mirror fogs, then clears. Her face does not appear. Instead, you see a woman in chains, wearing your crown, but her eyes are older. Her mouth sewn shut with gold thread. She is standing before the court, naked, bloody, unbowed. Your voice trembles. Is that you? The mirror answers, but not with words, with memories. Flash, a throne room burning, perfumed courtiers screaming, a girl standing tall beside a cradle. She refuses to offer her child to the bloodline's flame. She chooses love over duty. Flash. Her punishment, the priests call it erasure. They say her name will rot in silence, that her face will vanish from all portraits, that no daughter will be born in her image, only in warning. But the blood doesn't forget. You are her mirror, you too question, you too ache. And that's why they built her prison in glass, because reflection is rebellion. You fall to your knees. Tell me your name. You beg. The mirror shudders from the edges of the frame. Vines curl inward, thorns inked in flame. And then a whisper. My name was Queen Rilith, Merelda of the 13th line. Not a servant, not a ghost. A sovereign who said no. You stagger back. Your ancestors have lied. Merelda wasn't madness. She was memory, buried alive. You ask the final question. What did they do to your daughter? The glass turns black. Only one word appears, scrawled in condensation. Me, your breath catches. You understand now. The line never broke. It hid itself inside you. You are not next in line. You are the return, and somewhere in the walls, the bloodline begins to scream.